Hey guys, what's up and welcome back. In this video, we will see that how you can make use of IAM DB authentication to access your databases. So instead of using the passwords to get access to your database resources, you can make use of authentication tokens, and the validity of each token is 15 minutes. So you can make use of an authentication token to get access to your database resources. So we'll see the entire process from scratch, and we'll just see that how exactly you enable the DB authentication on your databases and how you run some commands and you go step by step to enable this feature. So let's see the entire process. So this is our AWS Dynamic console. We just go to the RDS, the stands for Relation Database Service, and I already have a MySQL database up and running. So the very first thing we'll do is that we just enable the IAM database authentication on that MySQL database that is already up and running. So once we just go to the RDS dashboard, we will enable IAM DB authentication. So let's go to my DB instances and I choose my DB instance, click on modify. Once we just go to the modify, we can modify any of the configuration parameters that were applied beforehand. So as of now, we have to scroll down and we have to look for the IAM DB authentication and we have to enable that. So you can see that under database options, you can find IAM DB authentication. I choose this option because by default it's disabled, so you have to enable it. So once I choose enable IAM DB authentication, then I will scroll down and click on continue. I can choose apply immediately so that this change will be applied immediately, and I just click on modify DB instance. So there's a first step that you have to perform to enable the IAM database authentication. The next thing we will do is that we just create a new role with some custom policies, because that policy will be applied to the new instance or the Amazon Linux instance that will be creating or launching. I go to my services first and then I open IAM. So we have to create a new role that will be assigned to our EC2 instance, and we use that instance to get connected to this database. I go to the IAM and I go to roles and click on create role. So once we click on create role, I will choose EC2 to allow EC2 instances to call upon the services on my behalf. So we have to choose EC2 because this role will be assigned to one of the Amazon Linux instances or instance that will be launching after this step or after we create or manufacture this role. I click on X permissions and we have to choose a policy. Now the policy that we have to look for is the RDS full access. So we have to choose this policy and click on next add tags. We can skip it, click on next review, and I can just assign a name to it, custom IAM RDS role. Fine. So once you assign a name to it, and I can just choose -EC2 or _EC2. So this is the name of the role. And the policy that will be attached to this role will be Amazon RDS full access. We click on create role and this role will be manufactured. We click on the role right now and we have to include a custom inline policy. So this is our role page, and the main policy that is attached to this role is Amazon RDS full access. We click on add inline policy on the right hand side. And we have to include a custom inline policy. We just go to JSON. I copy and paste a custom inline policy. So I just go to one of the documents that I've created. I'll include this document in the description or the resources section so that you can perform these steps by yourself. So this is the custom inline policy that we have to include in this role. I just copy it. I go back to IAM and I just paste it. Now, over here in resource, you have to change the resource attributes. First thing first, you have to change the region So in my case, the database or the MySQL database that I've launched is in Mumbai, which is AP South 1. So this is the Mumbai region, AP South 1. The next thing is that I have to define my account ID. So I just go to my account page so that I can fetch my account ID, and that account ID has to be included in the ARN within that inline policy. So it's very important that you have to change all the attributes of your inline policy. So I just copy my account ID and I just go back and I just paste it over here. So once we do that, once we change the account ID, the next thing we're going to do is that we have to include the DB or database resource ID. So how you can find that? You have to go to the RDS dashboard. Just click on your database or the MySQL database that we have launched beforehand. And you have to go to configuration. Once you just go to configuration, you scroll down and you can see that this is the resource ID. This is the resource ID. So I just copy the resource ID like this. And I just go back to the policy and paste it. After that, you have to mention the database user account name that will be linked with this IAM DB authentication. So this is the database account username you'll be using to authenticate to database instance using the authentication token. So I will just define any of the names, for example, Tim_Cook. So this is my database user account name that will be linked with this IAM database authentication, or this database account username will be used to access the database using the authentication tokens. I go ahead and click on review policy. And once we do that, I can just assign a name to this policy, for example, IAM DB, something like that, and click on create policy, and that's been done. So this is the inline policy, the custom inline policy I've included in the role. So the role that I've manufactured consists of the Amazon RDS full access and the inline policy that I just manufactured. Now we will launch a new instance and apply this role to that instance in the process of launching it. So I just go to my main page, I go to my services, I open EC2, and let's launch a new Amazon Linux instance. And once we launch it, or in the process of launching it, we have to apply this role that we just manufactured. So I click on launch instance, or I go to running instances real quick. And once I just go to running instances, I click on launch instance. Once I click on launch instance, I can choose the Amazon Linux AMI. And we can just go with the tt.micro as instance type, click on next configure instance details. We'll keep all the settings as it is, we will not change anything. We click on next add storage. Okay, one thing I missed. I go to previous, I have to go to the IAM role, which is set to none by default, and I have to choose the custom IAM role that we have manufactured beforehand, right? So this role will be assigned to the instance. I click on next add storage, next add tags. You can skip it, click on next configure security group. I can just choose one of the pre-existing security group to be assigned to the instance. Click on review and launch, and I can create a new key pair if I want. I can just name this as IAM DB demo, something like that, -kp. So this is the key pair that will be used to authenticate and get access to this instance in the future. I click on download key pair so that I can just download a copy of the private key and click on launch instances. Now I'll be using this instance to connect to the MySQL database instance that is running behind the scenes. So I just click on the instance ID, and this instance will take some time to boot up. In the meantime, what I will do is that I just open my new terminal session. I need to open my terminal and I need to connect to this database. So I'll just open a new terminal window. So let me do one thing. Let me just minimize the screen. And I just open a new terminal window and increase its font size. Fine. So let's do one thing. Let's go back to my downloads because I downloaded the private key, the PEM key. So I will just drag and drop that on my desktop. Once I do that, I just go back to my desktop, or I just open my terminal and just type in cd desktop so that we can change the drive to desktop. And then I just initiate the command to get access to my Amazon Linux instance that we have just launched. So I just type in my key. Okay, one thing I forgot, because I'm using this key for the very first time, I have to change the access rights of it. So just type in chmod 400 IAM TB demo -kp.pem, right? So once I change the access rights of it, because I'm using this key for the very first time, then I just go ahead and I will just SSH to my Amazon Linux instance or EC2 instance that we have launched beforehand. So SSH-I, name of the key, then I give a space, and then the username, that's EC2-user @ I just shoot back to my instance dashboard and copy the public IP and paste it. Here we go. So just type in yes, press enter, and we have connected to the Amazon Linux instance that we have launched. Now I'll be using this instance to get connected to my SQL server or MySQL database. The very first thing is that we have to install the MySQL communication package. So we have to run the command sudo yum install MySQL server. Why? So I'm just going to install the MySQL communication package. Then we use the check config command to boot the MySQL server at every sign on. So it will configure the MySQL server at every boot. So sudo check config and MySQL D on. So let me just ensure that I can type the exact command, and that's it. So once you run the check config command, the next thing is that you have to start the MySQL service. So sudo service MySQL D start. It will take a few seconds, and that's been done. The next thing we will do is that we will just go ahead and we just connect to the MySQL database instance upon which we have enabled the IAM database authentication. So this is the following command, MySQL. So this is the entire command, -h. So after we just type in -h, we have to go back to our RDS database dashboard and we have to copy and paste the endpoint name. So if you just choose your database instance, go to connectivity and security. After that, what you have to do is that you have to copy the endpoint name and you have to just paste it. Then the next thing you're going to be doing is that you give a space, type in -P, that's a port 3306, which is used to get connect to the MySQL database instance. So port 3306 is used to get connected to the MySQL database. Then I give a space. After that, what we're going to do is that we just type in -u, the username. This is the master username that we have chosen when we launched the database instance. So this is the master username. And I just type in -P for the password. Then I just type in the exact password of this database instance, right? So this is the process to connect from your instance to the MySQL database. Now you have to create a user, the database user account that will be linked to the IAM database authentication. So this is the command, create user. Let's type in Tim_cook. Now I have to, need to exit because I typed the wrong command. Let me just connect to the database once again. And let me just type in the password. Done. Now, one thing you have to understand, you have to type the same user ID or the database user account name that you have included in the custom inline policy. So if I just go back to the same document that I was referring to, and I include this document in the resources section, this is the custom inline policy that we included. And on the right-hand side, under the resource, we included the database user, Tim_cook, the same user account you have to create in your DB instance. Fine. So I just go back to my terminal. Let's type in create user Tim_cook, and then let's type in identified with AWS Authentication plugin as RDS, and we end the statement with a semicolon. So this is the command we have to type in to create the database user account that will be using the IAM database authentication to get access to your database. Once you create the user, you have to allow this user to connect to this database using the SSL. So this is the command, grant usage on, then a ***2, then you have to include the exact username, Tim Cook, then @symbol, then we have to include this, the percentage sign, and then we just type in require SSL. Now these are the commands that you might be using or seeing for the very first time. You can just go to the document and you can just copy and paste each command one by one. Make sure that you change the user ID or the attributes. So I just type in the command so that I can allow this user to access my database using the SSL connection. That's been done. Now we're going to exit this database or get out of this database. Let's type in exit. Done. Now we'll be using the CLI to generate the authentication token. So how I will do that? This is the command, AWS RDS, then generate AUTH, or I would say DB AUTH token, right? And then after that, we just type in -- host name. So host name has to be included. Host name is nothing but it's the endpoint name of the database. So I just go to my RDS dashboard. I copy the endpoint name in front of you and paste it. I give a space, type in -- port. Now the port that you use is 3306. What is that? 3306. I give a space. Then after that, I have to include the username, -- username. Now this is the same username that we have created. That's Tim Cook. After that, I just type in -- region. So this is in AP South 1. That's Mumbai. Press enter. And this is the authentication token, which is valid for 15 minutes. So I can use this token for next 15 minutes and access my database. So I can just copy the entire authentication token. So on behalf of Tim Cook, I can access my database using this authentication token, which is valid for next 15 minutes. The lifespan of one token is 15 minutes. So I copy this authentication token, and let me do one thing. Let me open my text editor so that I can include that. So I open my notes and I can include this thing because you have to copy it and you'll be using it afterwards, this token. So that's it. This is my token. Now let me clear the screen and let me get access to my database, a MySQL database on behalf of Tim Cook. That's the database user account ID linked with the IAM database authentication. I access the database over SSL connection, and I'll be using the authentication token. But before that, you have to download the CA certificate, or I would say you have to download the root certificate, because you'll be using the SSL to connect to your database. Now, to download the root certificate, you have to just refer to a link that I've included in the document. This is the wget command, and this is from where you can download the root certificate. So I copy this right now and paste it. That's been done. So this is the root certificate or CA certificate that I'll be using to initiate SSL, or I would say you can encrypt your data or your communication to and from the database instance. Now let's connect to the MySQL database over SSL, and we'll be using the authentication token. So this is the command MySQL -h, and we have to include the database endpoint name. Let's copy it and let's paste it. Give a space -- enable clear text plugin -- SSL certificate. So the certificate would be this one. So I just copy the certificate and paste it over here. I give a space. Thereafter, we just go ahead and just type in username. So -u. Username is Tim_Cook. Give a space -p, and I just include the authentication token. So let's go there. Let's copy the entire authentication token and paste it. After you include the authentication token, you have to type in -- SSL verify server certificate, or server CERT. So this is the complete command you have to type in, including the authentication token, to get access to your database. I press enter, and it will take a few seconds to get connected. You have to wait, and that's been done. So we used the authentication token. It is valid for next 15 minutes. We logged in using the Tim Cook database user account name, and we are connected. And for example, let's type in show databases : press enter, and I can see my databases. This is the option, or this is the entire process for you to enable the IAM database authentication method. You have to do it by yourself so that you can get access to the entire stuff, and you can understand how this works for you. I'll include this document in the resources section with all the steps jotted down, and every single command is included. So that's it. Thank you so very much.